The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. You're listening to the Everyday Therapy Podcast. I'm JC Rader.
And I'm Julianne Schroeder.
And we're therapists bringing you honest conversations around emotional wellness and self-development.
Inspired by our personal experiences in therapy and because of our clients, we realize therapy has so much to offer both on and off the couch. Listen for tips and tools to navigate all the challenges that life throws your way.
To give us feedback on topics and guests, or for more information on our community events, counseling, or online services, contact us at everydaytherapypodcast.com. Hello, guys. Let's jump right into our supporters. So first off is Lifeology Institute, and they are a group private practice for counseling, and they are located all over the DFW Metroplex as well as outside of the state. So definitely look at their website, wefixbrains.com. They offer affordable counseling, all like early morning appointments, late evening, and weekends. So there's no reason, if you've ever wanted to try out personal growth, development, or work through something, check them out. And we wanted to feature Lexi Miller today. So she is a licensed professional counselor there, and she works specifically with trauma, recovery, PTSD, any type of childhood abandonment, neglect, grief and loss, anything that feels like deep-rooted. She does EMDR, so eye movement desensitization therapy, and it's a trauma-focused therapy that is incredible. So she's the go-to gal at Lifeology for trauma recovery. So definitely check her out and all the other great therapists there. So they have creative solutions to stuck problems.
Yes, and on that same wavelength, they have created the LISP School, which is the Lifeology Institute for Psychotherapeutic Yoga. And if you've listened to us before, you know that this is the merging of the Eastern and Western approaches to healing, integrating the mind and body. And today we're excited to announce that they are giving $150 off any sort of registration for the next cycle of their training program, which starts in September.
And they do fill up fast and only allow a certain amount of people.
Yeah, right now they're going through an application process, looking for those that do have a mental health background or have some sort of experience in yoga already, with a desire to really look at yoga for mental health and well-being. So.
Yes, and they offer CEs, continuing education for counselors, social workers in the area, and they have one coming up on the 28th of July.
Yeah, so basically it's an intro to psychotherapeutic yoga, so you can really understand about yoga for the brain and yoga for mental health, and you will be able to walk away with tangible skills that you can use with clients, or if you're a yoga teacher in the studio, to specifically address any mental health concerns.
So, and they have CEs all the time, so definitely if this episode is released after the July 28th, look at their website.
thelispyschool.com, and you can find them on Instagram as well, the Lispy School.
Yes. So thank you guys so much. We're both graduates from that program. I used to work at Lifeology, so we're supporters of them. Thankful for them as well.
Yes.
But let's jump into our topic today. So we are talking about assertiveness.
Yes. And we have some raw material today.
Yes, yeah. We'll see what happens on today's episode and how this goes.
Yeah, I have to share that JC was practicing being assertive and asking for us to switch sides so she could be on her good side. So we do have a video component of this.
Why do you have to share that, Julianne? Yeah, we've been practicing all day our assertiveness skills for this episode. So
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because it's easy not to be assertive sometimes around people who you know, right? So like in these like simple ways, like I'm going to ask for something and I know that you know what I'm wanting because we're both sort of intuitive as well as know each other. But, assertiveness like is helpful for especially in situations where people aren't able to read you.
Yeah.
And where you have to be more direct.
Yeah, and I feel like in certain relationships you fall into certain roles, right? Of like maybe more passive or the more angry one. So it's like definitely using these skills to like find that middle ground.
Yeah.
So maybe we should describe like what
Yeah.
is assertiveness?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I think people have like a misconstrued idea of what being assertive is.
That it's mean.
Yeah, aggressive, confrontational.
Yeah.
Right, or demanding.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, or especially women, right?
Yeah.
Like gender-wise, that saying yes is nice and saying no is mean. And that's so not the case.
Yeah, that's really black and white way of thinking.
Yeah,
too.
and we're here to kind of tell you why that is. But assertiveness, the way that I like to think of assertiveness, and I don't know if you've ever heard me describe this, this is how I describe it to clients, but it's really respecting yourself and respecting the other person. So it's this like mutual respect. And I think a lot of times, so describing like being passive and aggressive can kind of help make sense of what that like self-respect and other respect means. So if I'm more of a passive person, then like maybe you're like kind of an extreme of that would be like a doormat, like you don't respect yourself. You kind of accommodate everyone else. You're overly respecting other people versus like caring about your needs, your wants, right? And then aggressive would be like I'm overly respecting myself, like overly thinking that I'm right.
My way's the right way all the time.
Yeah. And I'm like not thinking about your wants, your needs, or respecting you. So that could be like raising my voice, yelling, name calling. That would be the extreme form of it, but it could even be like control, manipulation, those types of things too. So that's the way I kind of like to describe it to my clients. And I think a lot of times like you hear passive aggressive, right? And we kind of like swing on the pendulum. Like for me, I know like my experience is like I kind of grew up, like my role was to be more passive. And so like let everybody else like kind of accommodate everybody else. And so I swing on the pendulum like I'm overly passive and accommodating to other people. And then at some point I like break.
Snap.
Yeah. And then I'm like,
Like Britney Spears 2007.
yeah. Yeah, Crazy Girl comes out, and I just get tired of like kind of feeling taken advantage of when I'm putting myself in that situation, right? But
the resentment builds, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like,
and then I'm mean,
yeah.
and disrespectful. And I've worked on that, but that is, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Can you relate to that? Or where do you lie on kind of that scale?
Well, I think there are two ways in if you're passive aggressive, you can like swing to the opposite side of being, like having that resentful sort of attitude come out.
Yeah.
And I think for me more often than not, I probably just go into complete shutdown mode. And then I'll like distance myself and I'll be bitter from people. With my family, I think I feel more comfortable around them. So, I probably will let out a little bit more anger.
Yeah.
Or have in the past.
Yeah.
Because I'm like trying to, find that middle ground.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like nobody's like probably falls into like just one category all the time.
Yeah.
Like you kind of like switch, throughout phases of life or, and even in different categories of your life, like work, like you said, your family, maybe a partner or friends, like you can be different aspects, like passive with one area and aggressive in another.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so
Yeah.
black and white. And though I think it is like really good information for any sort of interaction and relationship if there's a pattern of you acting one way or the other, like whether it's passive aggressive or aggressive, because sometimes there can be established roles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is it about the other person or the request or whatnot? So it just like gives us information.
For
right?
sure, for sure. Yeah, it's important. Like, I feel like it's easy to be like, oh, the passive is bad and aggressive is bad. And maybe sometimes, like, goal is to be assertive, but sometimes, it is easier to like be passive in situations, or like you do have to like raise your voice or something too. So I think it's like being able to discern, like ultimately, and probably majority of the time being in the assertive,
Right.
working towards that. But it's important, I think, for people not to judge if they notice that they're falling on one of those outliers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to always be able to ask yourself, okay, what is making this difficult, right? Like, and I think really if we can dive in more into like family modeling,
Yeah.
I think that really like it does create a lasting impact on our
Yeah.
ability to navigate relationships and communication.
Yeah, because
So,
you learned it from somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I think it's important to like have empathy for yourself of like, yeah, and that curiosity of like, where did this come from?
Yeah. So I think, a couple of reflective questions that you could ask yourself if you haven't done that in therapy is, okay, what was shown to me about speaking up about my needs,
Yeah.
right?
Was I allowed to speak up? Was I not allowed? Yeah.
Was I dismissed or was I like given appropriate care and response?
Yeah. And like I think of too, like how was that modeled to you, like by your caregiver? Like were they, passive, aggressive, assertive, to you, to other people?
Yeah. And then two, because I think assertiveness can be confused with conflict, I think that's something else to look at. Like how was conflict in your household?
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have permission to like have conflict, have confrontation, to speak up with your wants and needs? Yeah. Did you do you want to talk about your personal experience?
I love how you're always asking and giving me the permission to say yes or no. Sure, yeah. I guess, I mean, we're similar but different. I was the middle child, right? So it's easy for me to kind of pacify others and be passive. That was, because I did like to be able to, I guess, like slide on by a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like it was kind of easier that way. And so I think my style growing up was definitely being more passive. But I mean, I'm not one to say that I didn't have my moments, like where things finally like built and exploded. Like I had a moment with my older sister that I recall that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think understanding that when we can be assertive, then we can be proud of our interactions, because it's, it doesn't feel good to like you said, feel like a doormat and powerless. Or for me, it doesn't feel good to be overly dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some like guilt and shame
Yeah.
with, or at least for me, if like
Yeah.
whenever I do become aggressive, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I don't like the way that I acted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not going into details of how that happened for me.
Yeah, let's not go there. Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I was definitely like kind of, it was expressed to me not to have like wants and needs, to just kind of be like quiet kid, like look pretty and like not put on a show for people, but kind of in a way, but not like ruffle any feathers, I guess. And so, yeah, I think that's like, and I think it's important to acknowledge that like parents do the best with what they have. They're not like intentionally trying to like put that on you.
Right.
But I think my family, they were the same way, too. So,
Yeah. Hey, can I ask just a thought,
Yeah.
like what this looks like in your group of friends growing up? like your communication style?
I might go
Assertiveness?
like elementary school or
Or
like
like
high school.
teen? Yeah.
I was honestly like pretty aggressive as a teen. I
Really?
think
Okay.
because for so long I was passive and like trying to accommodate everyone, like very anxious, like created a lot of anxiety. So whenever I got to high school, it was kind of like screw it mentality and I'm going to go the opposite end. And yeah, a lot of disrespect towards school and just myself and everybody else. So it got me into a lot of trouble in that way. Yeah. So definitely acknowledge the pendulum
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
From passive to aggressive.
Yeah. But I mean, thanks for being willing to share because I do think it is important to look at how you like interact in different settings and with different people.
Yeah.
Right. And
In
maybe there is
different
some
phases.
overlap.
Yeah.
Or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like with my friends, I would say as a teen, I still played that role of like, wanting everybody to be happy, right? That peacemaker. Like I was good at being nice. Like that's where I found my worth,
Yeah.
right? Like because I felt maybe insecure that I couldn't perform in other ways. So I was like, I held on to that, like
Yeah.
as a source of identity. So in my mind, yeah, like you said earlier, to be passive is to be nice. But really, no, because it doesn't set appropriate boundaries.
Yeah, and just an example of that, like I would much rather like if somebody's saying yes to me all the time and like yes, I'll do this for you or yes, I'll go to this event with you. Yes, yes, yes. Like and then they resent me for it. Like I would much rather somebody tell me no and be honest and it might disappoint me a little bit than for them to like just go along with something.
Right.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, that's like the nicer thing to me
Yeah.
is somebody saying no to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or because, yeah, sometimes if you are passive and can't communicate your needs, and then you can show up in other ways as far as being maybe flaky. Like, I
Yes.
know I've done that before.
yeah.
Right? Like I like overschedule myself and
Say
then
yes to everything. Spread yourself way
Yeah.
too thin.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a part of assertiveness, right? Is like that's respecting yourself. Spreading yourself too thin is
Yeah.
not respecting yourself.
And respecting the other person because you need to show up in a way. I guess for me, like I want to show up with integrity and like to be able to be myself in the
Yeah.
best way that I can be with the other person.
Yeah. To be
You know?
present. Yeah,
Yeah.
And give them everything.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily respecting them either.
Yeah.
If I'm saying yes and only giving, I mean, and I'm careful because we're all human. We can't always give our
Yeah.
best,
We
right?
make mistakes. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes, I mean, yeah, we both still do that, spread ourselves too thin and then have those wake up calls that's
Like this week.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I need to say no more. Especially when it's your natural tendency.
Yeah.
So I think that that's important too. Like you have to come back to it.
Yes.
Like it is
Yeah, it
one of
takes
those
practice, for sure.
skill things like building
Yeah.
muscle. You
Yeah.
know, like you have to work it out and
Yeah.
try it and be uncomfortable. Because sometimes it is really uncomfortable to say no.
Yes. So yeah, if we're going to look at like what makes it hard for people to be assertive, what are they trying to avoid?
Yeah. Okay.
Put on your therapist hat.
Yeah. What am I trying? Yeah, I think like upsetting somebody. Like I don't want to disappoint somebody. I don't want somebody to be mad. Like abandonment, at a deep level. Like if I say no to somebody, will they leave me? Like that's like maybe a like very deep rooted,
Yeah.
issue with
Yeah, no, but that
being
is, I mean, that
assertive.
is so true.
And if I ultimately ask for what I want and need, like if I am like kind of give my all, if I'm like fully show up, like will this person like me? Will they want to be around me?
Yeah.
What about
So
what
that's
is
real-
your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, I think you did a really good job of describing, especially from your viewpoint, like what makes it hard for somebody who is inclined to be more passive. And so then I'm just thinking from the role of people being more aggressive, what are they trying to avoid? A loss of control.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And also in the same way, there is insecurity, deep-rooted insecurity and abandonment there,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. What else do you think?
Yeah. I think like bigger side would be like a loss of control. Yeah, maybe like fear of being vulnerable. fear of being insecure, like opening yourself up to that.
Yeah.
If they're more open to like a negotiation, to like hearing out somebody else's wants and needs, like, yeah, being disappointed. I think maybe the same things on the other end. Fear of like having anxiety about what somebody says. Like, I would much rather, if I'm aggressive, I would much rather share, what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling than hear like what's going on with you.
Right. Yeah. So it all boils down to fear.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when we don't know what's appropriate and how to handle it, as well as understanding that there are just going to be some uncomfortable emotions that we just have to tolerate.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but I think part of why I'm so glad we're doing this episode is so that we can educate people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that there's so much to it. Like, you make a good point. Like, it's understanding, like, what is your tendency, right? Like, what is the motivation? Is it to, like, respect other people, to, like, keep safe? Is it to overly respect yourself to keep safe? And then do you even have the skills to be able to, like, find that middle ground of assertiveness? So there's a lot of, like, reflection and then skills that go into this, like, process. So it's a lot of work.
It is.
Yeah, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like what you said. Like, it's really about being able to own that respect. And I think that's worth so much.
Yeah. And I mean, this is like tied to your self-esteem, like confidence, like it ties into like, can you be compassionate to yourself when you make mistakes? Can you be compassionate to others? Forgive others? So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. We're just doing a little spoonful here right now.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we should say on just like the concept of assertiveness, or if we should kind of go into like skills, how to do it.
Yeah. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
People want to know how does this happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How can I do this?
And we explain it in the sense of like the back end's important too. But
Yes.
here's the
understand
skills.
the emotional component for it.
Yeah.
Yes. And now.
Yeah. So first, should we describe like the assertiveness communication formula? Like, that's an easy one, and then kind of a more in-depth one.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Way to do it. So I love this. I give this to clients all the time whenever they're having conflict with their partner or a friend or somebody, because we are not taught, how to say like what's going on in our minds and to ask what we need, right? We do it in all these weird ways sometimes. Some people have it down, but I would say few of us. But okay, so the assertiveness communication formula is basically...
Everybody take out their notes.
Yeah, take out your notepad. We'll try and figure out how to put this in the show notes.
I really do this for clients too. Like I say as you'll get to it, like the sentence stem in blank and give them so they can refer back to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like, I have it written down in my journal for myself.
Yeah.
But it's when you blank, I feel blank, I would like blank. It's super simple. Like, break it down to the basics, like, don't reinvent the wheel.
Yes. Be concise and direct.
Yeah.
Right. And to explain a little bit about these components, the first component is acknowledging your feelings.
Well, the first component's more like describing what's going on. Yeah, when just describing the behavior that maybe you don't like from another person. The second component is...
Yes. So can we back up real quick, though? Describing the behavior, some tips. Be specific.
Yeah.
Right. Don't make generalizations like, when you never pay attention to me ever.
Yeah.
Like
globalizations, like avoid always, never, ever, those terms.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about this specific situation.
Yes. Start there. Right.
Yeah.
But then, okay, moving into the feelings. The reason for this is because you are owning your own experience, and that cannot be taken away from you.
Yeah.
So sometimes people find it hard to be assertive based on the other's outcome, like the outcome of it, and the other person's response. Like, no, like, I don't think I really did that. And they can disagree, but they can't disagree with the fact that you feel hurt.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't like to, they're like, oh, I wish I didn't feel hurt, or I wish I didn't feel sad, or you feel sad, you feel hurt, you feel disappointed.
You feel angry,
Yeah.
annoyed.
And the way to like move through that or deal with it or heal from it is to acknowledge it. Like if you are avoiding it or trying to push it away, it's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out another way. So that's super important. I feel upset. I feel sad. Like really go inward and try and acknowledge that primary emotion, like what's really underneath everything. Yeah, that's super important, I think, for yourself and to share with another person.
Yeah. And then the last part moves it into action and responsibility.
Yeah.
So, yes, like acknowledge the feelings, and then what are the ways that both of you all can like be able to understand would make the situation better?
Yeah, ask for what you need. Ask for what you want. And then there can be like a negotiation process of like the other person says, okay, I can't give you this, but I can give you this. Or just, you know, a validation process of just validating the feelings is important. And I think it's important whenever we give this assertiveness communication formula to acknowledge that 90% of communication is nonverbal. So even though we're giving you this skill, if you say, when you do this,
Oh, no, girl.
I feel so angry and I want you to always do this. Like, you know, like you have your eye contact, like it has to be soft, your body language softer, tone of voice, gentle. You know, it's important to have this. John Gottman calls it a soft startup because he says whenever you have conflict or a confrontation, how you start the confrontation or assertiveness practice is going to end the practice. So if you start out aggressive, it's probably going to end in an aggressive way.
Yeah. Can I play devil's advocate though for a bit?
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, absolutely hear that. And I think one consideration is for those that are more passive, that you're actually going to have to do a little bit of the opposite. You're really easy at being soft and gentle, and you can still be that way, but appropriately assertive.
For sure.
So
for sure. Sometimes you can be, yeah. That's a good point of like, maybe you need to be firm. You know, but yeah.
Firm and understanding can both exist. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I agree with that. So thank you for, acknowledging that. So that's like just a super easy way to like, and I think it's important too on the back end of that, expressing your wants and needs, like to express your wants and needs, to express how you feel, you have to know those things. So that can take some reflection time too of like journaling, like how do I feel?
Right.
Journaling, like what do I want and need? A lot of people don't, if you're very focused on other people's needs. Very focused on other people's wants and needs, like you can just not have any idea what's going on for you.
Yeah. All of a sudden you can just be angry and you don't know why.
Yeah. So that's where you got to like back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of do some self-exploration. So, yeah, using the skill, sometimes it's not as simple as just using it. But
it's a little bit nuanced.
Yeah. It is like a super helpful skill you can just like pull out of your pockets, easy to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just another thought too, in terms of bringing this up with a partner or a friend, coworker or whatnot, I think it's always best just to start with one example. Like, don't make a laundry list of like all the, the needs, but start with one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that would get like lost in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. One at a time. Yeah, for sure. Good.
Or,
good
I mean, maybe not one, but like limited. So the other person, I mean, because it's a common for people to become defensive, right? The way that this is structured is to ease the defense mechanism, but it can still happen. And so I think if you're to do too much at once, then like the person is, like you said, going to shut down or become aggressive and be like, what else do you want from me? So not to say that you can't continue to speak up, but just dose it out maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the last aspect of that is like you hear the I state, like use I statements,
Yes.
and that like I feel portion is that I statement. So that's like the important part of that. And like you were saying, like it's not, I feel that you do this all
Yeah,
the time.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
like a really
Can't use it
genuinely
to twist it.
what's going on with you.
Yeah. I feel like you never listened to me.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, we don't have a ton of time
Oh, wow.
left. That
Okay.
went by like pretty quick.
Wow, cool.
But yeah, here's another skill that's like a little more in depth. Do you want to we can explain it together, but
Sure. Yes. So the acronym is Dear Man because everything in therapy is based on acronyms.
yes.
So if
We
you
want
haven't
it to
figured
be
that out.
easy to remember,
Yes.
right? So you can just like jump into it.
So once again, get your notes out, or we'll also put this in the show notes. So D stands for describe.
Yeah, so kind of the same as the other one, other assertiveness communication formula.
Yes. So once again, being clear and concise. And I do think it's important not to ask a question that is so vague, so being specific. So instead of saying, like, could you please clean, ask for what you really need. So then they're understanding, could you please do the dishes before going to bed?
Yes. Yeah. And then the E is for express. So let others know how a situation makes you feel by clearly expressing your feelings. So again, I feel blank because of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So going further into this, A is assert. So don't beat around the bush. Say what you want to say. So an example of this, don't say, oh, well, I don't know if I can cook tonight or not. I'm busy. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Oh, I do that a lot.
You're like, well. So the proper way of handling that is asserting and saying, I won't be able to cook because I'm working late or I have too much going on.
Oh my gosh.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I know, you just say it up front.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like I'm just thinking of this, like as we're talking about it, I think it's important to practice this on not big situations.
Yes.
So like on a day-to-day, if you could, just say like to your partner, to your friend, like, no, I can't cook dinner tonight, versus like when it's a big blowout.
Yes.
And stressful, right?
Yeah. No, can I say too, I love that we're reading some examples, just gonna be honest about that. And they're about like cooking and cleaning, and in relationships that can be such a source of stress.
Yeah.
It's like shared responsibilities. So this is like real life stuff here.
Real life.
This is why it's called everyday therapy.
Yeah.
For your everyday life. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, here we go.
Yeah, and then the R is to reinforce, to reward people who respond well and reinforce why you desired the outcome is positive. So this can be as simple as a smile or thank you, but just that positive reinforcement, like I feel like we're good at that, but
Yes.
yeah, it can be hard to do if you're like resentful or
Yeah.
like not in the best place about it, but that's important.
And then M is, one of our favorite words, mindful.
Such a buzzword right
Yes. But okay, in relation to this, what we're suggesting is not forgetting the objective of the interaction. So don't get lost in the details, right? It's easy to think about everything that hasn't gone your way in the past. So stay very mindful and present about this one interaction.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
And A is for appear confident. So, and what you were saying earlier. So maybe you're gentle in voice, but you're also like firm.
Yeah.
So consider your posture, your tone, your eye contact, your body language, all those things. So don't slouch, and kind of fall underneath their eyes, like meet their eye contact, good posture, firm tone of voice, all those things.
And last but not least, I think this is important. N is for negotiation. So we can be assertive, but we don't have to be rigid or completely passive. So there is room for negotiation. because nobody can always have what they want out of an interaction all the time.
Yes.
And this is a little bit more nuanced. So I will say, once again, if you tend to be on the extreme, you may need guidance in figuring out what is okay or not in terms of negotiation.
Right, right. Yeah, and just last thing with this dear man. So with dear, to me, that's like the skill, right? So it's kind of the assertiveness communication formula skill, like how to. And then the man is like your presence. So it's being mindful, it's confidence, and the negotiation piece. So I like to break it up in those two different categories of like the skill and then how everything else goes. So it's just helpful reminders.
Yeah.
Okay, so last thing I want to go over
Yes.
is the Personal Bill of Rights, which is in the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook by Edmund Bourne, and it's super amazing. You can look it up online, and maybe we can post it in our show notes.
Non-sponsored.
As well. Yeah, it's amazing. I use it with I have it laminated in my office.
I do too.
I
Yeah.
have to look at it occasionally personally,
Yeah.
as well as show it to my clients. Why I think it's so helpful, like going back to what we talked about earlier, like the way that you were raised, the way our culture is, or your culture, like you may not know what is like best, like the best way to go about something. So this is kind of like a helpful guideline. It's helpful guidance as like, this is how you respect yourself. This is how you respect others. And you can, change it as needed. If it doesn't fit for your culture, if it doesn't fit for you, you can, make it fit for you.
No, I love that.
Yeah. So let's just share a couple of our favorite ones on here. So the first one is this is, I think it's helpful too to know that like, if I have the right to do this, then you have to give other people the right to do this
Right.
too.
This is like
It goes both ways.
For all humankind. These
Yeah.
are guidelines and rights.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it fits for you.
Yeah.
I have the right to ask for what I want. Like powerful, what we're saying here, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes. And if you frequently experience guilt and feel selfish, like this one is going to be one that you want to repeat. Right.
Yes.
You, just as anybody else, is deserving of asking for what you want and what you need.
yeah. And like you were saying before we started the show, that you can make these into mantras.
Yeah.
Like in the morning, like say them to yourself.
Yes. Use it in your yoga practice. Write down and repeat to yourself before having the conversation or making that request. Right. Because basically this is a reminder which helps with the fear associated in some way.
Yeah.
Number 2, I have the right to say no to requests or demands that I can't meet. And I also would like to change that, or I don't want to meet.
Yes. I love the third one. I feel like this is so hard for me. I have the right to change my mind. Once I say I'm going to do something, it's like I am loyal, like to a fault.
Yes.
I'm going to do
Yes.
it whether it breaks me or not. And like,
Yes.
I can rearrange my schedule. Like, you don't have to like keep it that way all the time. You can change your mind.
Yes. Oh, imagine number 4 falls fittingly. I have the right to make mistakes and to not be perfect.
Yes, we love that one. Let's see. I have the right to say I don't know.
Okay.
It's a good, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's all really good, isn't it? Sorry, y'all, we're taking this in. Okay, I think we should maybe end with this one.
Okay.
15, I have the right to make decisions based on my feelings, my beliefs, and my values, right? You're allowed to have that respect for yourself and make decisions based on what feels right to you.
Yes, that's a good one to end on. So, yeah, this was so fun and a lot of good reminders for myself.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So just like word of encouragement, as with anything, it takes practice. It takes like looking inward and understanding. It also takes looking at each situation objectively. And yeah, if you struggle with this in any way, I mean, we're here. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely like reach out to a counselor, therapist, a coach.
Yeah.
It can really help like dig in and build insight so that you can like work through this. So yeah, there's a lot of support out there. And as far as resources go, like the Personal Bill of Rights is good. There's some assertiveness books that we'll list in our show notes.
Right. And assertiveness oftentimes goes hand in hand with boundaries, as you
Yeah.
can see the overlap. So anything with that,
Yeah.
we'll probably get that. Um,
So yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next
all
time.
right. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everyday Therapy Podcast. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and share with your friends. It really helps us reach more people.
We might only record once a week, but we're with you every day.